We should be, honestly, live on Facebook. Yay!
Hey, here we
So
are.
I think people, we've got this whole streaming on Facebook thing under control. I'm just having a quick look to make sure that we are there. We are, we did it. Yes. We've also got the live streaming into YouTube. So we will put some YouTube links so that you can follow our channel there because there's going to be all sorts of stuff going in there, which will be super fun.
Yep. Okay.
So let's see if we've got anybody with us.
I can't see.
LJ's here. Hi,
Yay!
LJ. It's amazing, isn't it? After last time, it's so much better.
Yes.
Oh my God, last time was a nightmare. I thought I was all slightly hysterical. So yeah. Um, yeah,
Okay,
got it sorted.
let me see. I've got to do a refresh here because I don't see nothing.
Oh, we're
I
definitely.
want to be able to see the comment. There we go.
Oh,
Gotcha.
LJ found our YouTube channel yesterday.
Yes.
Yay! So we've started putting the lives there. So there's a nice library. So if you ever need to find them, they'll be there. And we'll be putting some additional content there at some point when we get round to it. It all depends. God, look at that bruise. That's bad, isn't it? That must be in a door handle. That's usually what it is with me. So, Barbara, how's your week been with your dogs this last?
My week, it's been good. It's been good. We have, what have we done? We had only good things happening. I had a swim today with Noah. It was so much fun.
A swim
So,
in the
we went
sea?
in the sea, yes. So and obviously, I mean, Noah goes when I take him to the beach. He loves to swim. He's quite a funny because he bikes at the water.
Does he?
Yeah, he goes in and then he's like, bug. It's kind of almost as if he knows he loves it, and obviously it's exciting for him, but he doesn't bike until he's in the water.
Yeah.
And I thought it was all about him not really understanding how to get started. He knows to kick off and then swim.
Yeah.
So, obviously the level changes a little bit, or, so suddenly he swims. And then to me, it always looked like he would swim, 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 and then stand again, and then kind of bike at the water as if to say, do it again, do it again. I want to do it again. And today, and then sometimes I've been able to get him, and he's really good. He waits, he looks at the water, he waits till I say, okay, go swim, and then he runs in. But he does come out, although he finds it hard, but he comes out when I call him out. And then sometimes we just play a game of go swim. So need him to come all the way in. And ideally, I want him to do a easy behavior so I can then send him as a reward. And
Yes.
he's got that sus. So he wants to jump those steps. So he comes out of the water, he comes towards me, and if I then hold up my hand for hand target, he turns around immediately, like, skip that, let's go. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
We both know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, yeah,
Why don't
yeah.
I just go for it?
So then obviously I don't let him do that. I kind of laugh and I say, no, 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 come, you have to do some things. And then I let him, sometimes I just do a little, recall and turn around. So like, clap the side of my leg, like it's a cue that we use in agility, but like
Yeah.
basically just turn around he's on the outside of me, we turn around and then I send him back in. Sometimes I ask for a down because we work on down a lot for
Yeah.
his agility, but that over arousal and wanting to go, go, go is also a bit of a challenge for us. So anyway, and then today was a glorious morning, and the sea was just lovely and I couldn't resist. So I went swimming with him, and it was so sweet. And when he was standing there, he kept looking back, but he wasn't going further in. He was just like, up to here. And then the moment he saw me coming and then I walked into the water, he's like, yeah.
Brilliant, Mum's going too.
And
Yes.
then, here's the hilarious bit. So I thought from previous times when he swam, up and down a little bit parallel as I was walking, he wasn't biking the whole time because those were short and then he would come out again and then bike and so on. So I thought once he really swims, he won't bike. Nope, we were swimming. So we were both swimming. We're in the deep, so I could no longer stand. So we're behind the waves. And we're swimming and I swam on the outside, to the ocean, dog between me and the beach. And he's swimming and barking, barking. It's really funny. It's so excited. So we swam for a while. I mean, it's the Atlantic. It's quite cold. I felt
Yeah.
very refreshed afterwards. And then we swam and then we came out and then there was a seal looking at us. So I was kind of quite happy that we had come out before the seal came investigating. I don't think they would, bite now. And now I can't, I don't, unless they come out and stick their head out right in front of him, he wouldn't be able to see. He won't be able to see in the water. And then normally they're very inquisitive, they would come and swim around us. You probably wouldn't notice and they don't just go and attack. Anyway, but yeah, so I was glad we were back on the beach and then we walked on, but that was a nice way to start.
That sounds like a fabulous way to start your day.
As you can see, I still have a big smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that was my week. What was yours like?
What have I done?
Highlights.
Yeah, done a few bits and pieces. So yeah, little old Hattie getting older and older, bless her. Well, she's not that old, but she's 11 and a bit. And because we don't really know what her genetics are, whether how old that is will be for her, who knows. But yeah, she has got her arthritis. So yeah, we did go for a walk and she sort of got halfway around and she sort of lay down, like going, actually, I think I'd like to go home now. So we had to have a little break and then do little bit by little bit by little bit to help her get home, which was pretty cool. But we've been out actually. We had a lovely day yesterday in the woods, looking at all the bluebells. It was fabulous.
Nice.
Really. And I had one of those amazing encounters with another, it was a dog walker. So she had with her about 7 dogs. 8 billion dogs, We just, I know, we were coming down through the woods, down quite a narrow path. And it was one of those encounters that you want because I saw her, she saw that, I'd got my 2, and I thought, oh, we need some space here for everybody's benefit. And she just shouted, she said, I'll go back here. And I'm like, no, I can go just off track here. You can come past me. But she'd already turned around and gone. She went completely off the track. And we went past and everybody was happy. So it was one of those like really nice where everybody cooperates. And it's kind of, yeah, that's kind of how it should be.
Yeah.
Nobody lost their brains. It was all good.
Great. No, that's great. That's great. Awesome.
So yeah, it was pretty cool.
What about you guys? Did you have any highlights this week? Put it in the chat. Put in the comments what any good things or any questions you might have, because that's why we really hear, but we also love to hear your, what's going on. Let us know.
Exactly.
I've lost the window again. I can't see a thing. Okay, here we are. I've got it back.
And of course, if you're catching up, do feel free to answer all these questions because we'll catch up with them later when we have a little look, because we know that not everybody can bob on live, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what's the best time of day.
Yeah.
For
us and for you and for everything.
Yeah.
So many things to juggle.
Well, shall we dive in and answer? We have a couple questions.
Yeah, let's do that. And then we can come back and see if there's anything in the chat in a minute.
Okay, so here's one from Marion, who's asking, I'm thinking of perhaps changing from a harness to a wide collar for my lead reactive Saluki Shepherd cross, I guess, as he barks and backs away when I present his harness. I would like opinions, please, on changing to a collar, mounting a collar.
Okay. So, I mean, did I write something in the thing? I don't think the answer here is going to be changing to a martingale collar. That's not going to be your solution because we need to, like with all behavioral issues, we need to think, okay, well, what's behind that behavior? What's the reason for it? So we need to think if he's backing away from a harness, why is he backing away from the harness? Is it because there's some underlying pain? Is it because there's a poor fit on the harness? Is it because it's a harness you have to put your head into and he finds, and out of actually, a lot of dogs find their harness coming off really stressful and he finds that really worrying. So what is it about the harness that's making it feel a little bit punishing? So he's backing away from it a little bit. So those are the first things that I think that I'd be looking into. What would do you agree with that, Barbara?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are harnesses and harnesses,
100%.
and some are more comfortable than others.
Yeah.
And so, again, so good fit is important, but also what it takes for the dog to get the harness on. So, some of them require quite a few of the sort of H-shaped ones, which are great because, the dog's shoulders are free to move and so on. But they do require that, often that the dog puts the head through. That can be hard, right? That can be one of the things that the dog doesn't like. And there are two moments, on as well as off. No? A lot of dogs don't like this. And
Yeah.
and then also if a paw has to go through a loop somewhere to put the harness on, it can be a whole process. And what I really love is doing some, teaching some tricks that help you with those things. Easy tricks. So sticking your head through things that never touch you initially, and then getting the dog used to things touching their face. Maybe if your dog loves to tug, then you could play tug, and while they're tugging, I mean, if I'm the dog now, you can touch their head and body. That gets them, they're excited, they're playing and so on, they're having a great time, and they can learn that. And then another game that or if your dog doesn't tug, you could also just scatter cookies on the ground, and while they go and eat them, you go, get it, or whatever your word is to give them permission to eat the food. You can do the same thing, like touch them while they're doing it. So that's a fun way to get them used to that. And then another game that I love is, lifting the forepaws, whether that is, for high fives or wave or even just give paw. If you can teach that as a fun trick, that sticking your head through, having things touch you, then you'll have a much easier time putting clothes on your dog. So every little bit of it, I would take it out of context and make it a game away from the situation where you want to put the harness on.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you can just start with, a massive lead loop. Get them to can they put their head in there and make that into a game? Because that's quite easy because it's something you've got and you can make it smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. So, and in terms of the type of harness, I just thought, because I happen to be sitting next to my dog's harnesses. So like Barbara said, either the H-shaped ones, the X-shaped ones, or the Y-shaped ones. There are various letters. So Hattie and Tash both have Y-shaped harnesses. This is Hattie's one that as you can imagine, she looks very pretty in. So this is the bit there. So just so you know what that looks like. So this bit here, that's going to go around her middle. And then that will then go over the front of her shoulders there. So she's got lots and lots of lovely movement. But the other good thing about something like this is that it's got clips everywhere. So I would usually put these on, so around the neck first, because for my dogs, when I first had them, that was less punishing, or that was fine for them, whereas putting their head through it, they found more punishing. So
Yeah,
that works really nicely for us. The other good thing with these kind of ones is there's lots of adjustability, so we can make sure it fits. Sometimes you have issues with harnesses rubbing under the armpits, particularly, don't you? And I remember with Hattie, a harness that we got quite early on was rubbing a little bit under there. So that's why we replaced that with one that was just a bit of a better fit. So yeah, so
good.
that's the thing. Another thing that I do quite like to do as well is get the harness out and then don't put it on and play a game with the harness just over there.
Good point. So
Yeah,
if the dog already backs away when you just get everything out, then that
yeah,
is absolutely important level. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So it's
Or
always so many layers, right?
there really is.
Hmm.
And even, and I mean, a simpler kind of shortcut solution, of course, is getting a different harness where you don't have those, whatever the associations are, and you're starting from scratch. So you're starting, like when you do muzzle training or you do training for halter, you could do that. You can do exactly the same with a harness. And if you started with a fresh harness, then you're starting from scratch. So it depends on what situation you're in.
Yeah.
That's what I.
So the thing, another thing to consider is if just to cover the whole board.
Yeah.
Harness is one option, flat collar is another option, and with a dog where you have situations where you have to quickly get out, get away, a head halter is a good solution. However, it's not a fix. A head halter is always a
Mm.
training tool, right? So I use all three with my dogs. There are still with my 6-year-old now. There might be situations where I decide I might put a head collar on today just to be a, because I'm not entirely sure how high the distractions are that I'm facing, the level of arousal, if I feel I need a bit more control. Because what I don't want is a dog at the end of a flat collar doing that to themselves, right? So if I'm taking him somewhere where I'm not sure whether he might not get totally put over the top, a swimming competition,
For example.
for example, right? Not that I do that, it's just meant as a joke, but just something that, would put, then I would take him there and he would wear his head collar. And Falcon used to wear his head collar all the time. In the beginning, it would, with the puppies, it's always they're not really, they don't have loose leash walking skills yet. So it would be the whole, actually, he had the harness on. The first few times we took him to our promenade, yeah, he would wear his harness and his head halter, so that I had the head halter to set him up, and teach him some nice focused walking next to me. But then when I give him permission to just sniff and be a dog on a longer leash, then he would be clipped onto his harness, right? So that if he does suddenly run into the end of the leash, not really understanding everything yet, he wouldn't hurt himself. Or if I
Yeah.
walk in the dunes, or if I go for a long walk on the beach, lots of sand and things, where a head halter can become really uncomfortable for the dog when it gets hot and sand gets in there and so on. I wouldn't want to use it there.
Mm.
So then
And
it would.
you don't want a head halter when a dog is likely to kind of go "Bleh," like that, because then they could get pulled around,
Well,
aren't they? Not on their own.
Well, well, the thing with the head halter is it's a training tool. So you
Mm.
don't walk a dog on a head halter on a long
Exactly.
lead. You
Yeah.
always have
It's
to
about it's about that
focus
positioning, isn't
more.
it? And that
Exactly.
focus
Yeah.
and that reinforcement
Yeah.
zone.
And being able
100%.
to get
Yeah.
them away from a distraction. It's
Just
you,
to
you
make
don't
wanted
want
to
them to
make
run
that
into the end of the
distinction.
thing.
Yeah.
But I also do personally, I do think that the danger of dogs getting hurt on a head halter are a bit exaggerated. I think that is mostly imagined. Most people know, that the leash should be short. And even if it wasn't, I think the damage that can be done, a dog that runs full speed into the end of a flat collar is way bigger.
Weird,
But
isn't it? Because
it's not based on any research, it's just my personal imagination. Right?
yeah, I mean, I don't use a house shelter with either of mine, and I never have. Having said that, I do use with all their harnesses. I use a front and back clip. Um, But again, I wouldn't use the front clip by itself because I think that's more aversive. But it's more about, helping them to stay balanced and having that little bit of, extra. I can't remember the last time I used a front clip with Hattie, but I do sometimes, if I want, same with you, the same reason you use the head halter. If I want that control focus walking with Dash, then he'll get the front clip because it's easier for him to then position where I want him to be for focus. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, there's more than one way to walk a dog, eh?
Exactly. And sometimes, there's no perfect solutions. Sometimes it's looking at, well, what's the least worst
Yeah.
for my dog, for for your dog in this particular circumstance. So yeah.
Anyway, I hope that
we've got a little bit off track there, but yeah, I just don't think that that's going to a martingale is not something that I would.
Yeah, it's not going to fix it. I mean, there are martingale collars that have really nice wide collar parts with lots of padding and that never will really close, that they're just, you adjust them so that the dog can't easily get out. But that would not give you the safety, because if you want to prevent your dog from being choked on the thing, which would not be good, because then the martingale collar becomes a choke collar, and that's a big no-no. So if you have a dog that wants to wiggle out, they might be able to do that. So then the harness is definitely better. Yeah. So
there you go.
There we go.
We've got a couple of comments in the chat. Shall we have a look at those?
Yeah, let's.
So LJ Bodie and LJ met at the Riv with two of his friends. And I got two great recalls in the woods. Well done, you.
Wonderful. And LJ also shared about her gentle leader, that she keeps it in her pocket for just in case. I rarely need it anymore, but Bodhi has so much positive history from the conditioning we did that it works like magic to calm him when I slip it on for a few minutes.
Isn't it interesting? I find that such an interesting thing. And I think I mentioned before that I've got a different, like a house lead. So when we're at home and if Hattie, goes off on one, if I clip on this house lead, because she's got so much positive calming association with it, she calms right down. And it sounds like you've done exactly the same with your gentle leader. And it's a really great point, changing the picture a little bit.
Yeah, something that Susan Garrett once said in a head halter discussion about, besides all the other useful training tips around it, is that a dog on a head halter gets way more rewards than a dog on a flat collar, walking ahead of you, or even on a harness, because you're training, you're working the dog, it's focused walking, we're on, and they get a ton of cookies, even after the conditioning, just while you're walking. So it sets them up. So with Falk, you have the same thing. I might call him in, do a pause up on me. I see there's something going on there or whatever, and I'm thinking, maybe I'll put the head halter on. And then I just ask him to put his paws up, and he comes up like this, and I get the halter out. Oh, it's actually gentle leader. Just that halter sounds so nice. Gentle leader out, and he sticks his nose in there quite happily. If he hated the thing, he wouldn't,
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on.
Andrea's got a question. Yay. So they live in the middle of a small lane. To go on any of my walks, I have to turn left or right down this lane. If I meet anyone with a dog along here, the rest of the walk is a nightmare. He's on full alert. How do I train to deal with this lane? Often I'll drive out so we avoid the lane fully. What do you think?
So, I know exactly what you're talking about, Andrea. Where we lived in Halifax was like that. It wasn't a super small lane. It was a small residential road, with houses on each side, but we were somewhat in the middle. And similar thing. And I did, first of all, I think there are a couple of layers that play in, a couple of candles for the dogs. So we go out of the door, already they're excited, we're going for a walk. Oh, and before I say anything else, I think that what you're doing, driving out to avoid the lane, is great. And I would continue to do that, and then do, additional training time would be to practice calm departures at home, where you just go through the door and back in again, right? And play threshold games. So something like our hot zone game. Did we share the hot zone game in this group? Julia, I can't remember.
Don't think so.
Not as part of the reset.
Can't remember.
Anyway, but things like and your dog getting off a bed, and then you wait, they're on a leash and you just wait. So you feed them a whole bunch of cookies. You put them on their bed, you feed them a whole bunch of cookies for being on the bed, then you release them off the bed and you do nothing. They're on a relatively short leash and they're like, what the heck? I just got 1,000,000 cookies for being on the bed, right? So they'll hop back on the bed. Then we have a party on the bed and do something else. And then you repeat that game. So they learn to be on a thing, get off, go back, off, get back, off, get back. Then you can do the same thing at the door. So you ask for a sit or a down or some kind of control behavior at the door. You open the door, you release them to go forward, and then you don't move. If you've just been feeding them for being next to you before you open the door, I should have said that first, for sits or downs or whatnots on your leash, then you open your door, you let them go out, you don't move, you just stand there, and the moment they look back at you, you put some cookies on the ground and have a party, right? So your dog learns to orient back at you. So that would be a good game. And there's a bunch of other things that you can do for slow departures. I'm sure Julia's got a couple more. I'm not sure where her head is going right now, but that would be layer number 1. Okay, create some calm departure. The next layer would be go out the door and back inside. And all along, you can work on something. It can be responses to your down cue. It could be a middle. It could be anything that your dog easily does. It can be sits, whatever it is, something easy. It can be hand targets. And then we go back in the house. So we make that zone outside the house part of, oh, we play games here. I'm relaxed. I'm with mom. Initially, dog might be a little bit alert, but they'll learn that's a different undercurrent now. It's a candle that's gone. This, we're going for a walk. I'm already excited. Could be a dog. And then, yeah, there was a dog. Now I have to be on hyper alert. So we're just playing like that. And then we go up the road in either direction, just one house and back again. Because we've already been for a walk, or we're already planning to go for a walk in the woods or somewhere else later. So you don't have to worry about getting the dog away so you can get on with your walk. You satisfy that need elsewhere, and then you just work on that. And then third would be to check, is there anywhere in that lane where you can hide? So say you see a dog coming, how quickly, if the moment you see another dog, you turn around and you go back home, either through your front door, or if you have a driver beside the house or somewhere that you can get back, right? And that is something you want to practice without first seeing a dog, so that turning around, not becoming a trigger, right? Yeah. So that is part of those games that you play first. And maybe there are parked cars. Maybe there are other people's driveways, bushes, gardens, anything that you could potentially put between you and the other dog on your way out. But none of these things on their own are a fix. These are all things that will work together so that eventually you can get to a point where it's fine and you can take your dog out on a walk, and never mind what you encounter in your lane, you can still afterwards have a good walk. Right? That's the end goal. But there's a whole bunch of layers, and you have to come at it from different angles, and also make sure that you can get your needs and your dog's needs for your outdoors walks and so on satisfied in another way, because that will take away a lot of the stress for you and the frustration when it happens and you see a dog. What would you
Yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. And I think Andrew's just said there's nowhere other than walking out the other end of the lane or into a gate. And that's what I had in my head. So in my head, I had you come out of your gate, you go down a lane. I'm thinking there's probably hedges on both sides, maybe very small grass verge, but basically nothing that you can really do anything about or get behind. So that's what I've got pictured in my head that's going on. And I think what Barbara was saying that, initially there's a couple of things to do. So one thing, as you know, when you see another dog initially, is the reaction, is it immediate? Or what are you seeing in terms of body language for your dog? So I'd be looking at your dog's body language. I'd be going, okay, once we get we're in that amber zone, that kind of the dog's seen the other dog and they're starting to feel super concerned. That can be that really cool time, like she said, to do the U-turn and go back. If your dog can, when you're behind your gate, if you can then do some games with your dog and that distance and that barrier is sufficient to prevent a reaction, then that could be an option. You could even go into your front door and play while the other dog's walking past over there, wherever it is. If that is as long as that keeps as long as your dog stays below threshold, that's going to be the absolute key. So I'm thinking your main, thing up your sleeve initially is going to be doing that U-turn.
Yeah, and Andrea says the reaction is immediate.
It's immediate, you see the dog. Okay, so you need to be doing some work then elsewhere, don't you, really?
Yeah, but Andrea also says before they even see a dog in anticipation of one potentially coming. So I think
interesting.
working
Okay.
in the lane, so working, going out of your door, doing all these things and going back, back in and out, just working in front of your house. I did tons of this with Emma, tons of it. And it's, you work on things that you first work away from distractions that your dog really knows very well. And if you don't get the responses that you like, if your dog is like, oh, I can't respond, I can't play with you, we are here, then we just go back inside and we do it there. And so you ping pong until, you get, and any good response outside earns a higher value cookie, right? We need to make it work because it's harder. So you want to give them a higher value food reward out there. And then if you have a dog that can tug, that can sometimes really help because some of the tension can, a dog that loves to let go of some tension outside, that can work quite well. But not every, in my dogs have always had a hard time when they were on this kind of alert to focus on a tug game. So I'm not saying force that. It's absolutely cool to be working with food, but if you happen to have a keen tugger, you can take advantage of that.
And you could work with the memory of the dog, and that could be quite a nice stepping stone because, to the actual dog. It depends on how, if your dog's on quite high alert, then okay. The games that Barbara's talking about, absolutely fantastic. One that I really like to do is a paws up game. So your dog's got the front paws on something. And if you can set up 3 or 4 objects and start with them quite close together, and you could even have 1 or 2 of them in the house and then 1 or 2 of them just outside. And what you're doing that way is you're moving the dog from one thing to the next. So they know where they're going. They know what they're going to do next. They've got a mission, and that could take up quite a lot of their brain. So they're not so focused on scanning the environment. That can be a nice one. And then as they get better, you increase the responsibility for them by increasing the distances.
Yeah.
So the dog's got to take on a little bit of responsibility for self-regulation in between the paws up objects. I hope that makes a bit of sense. If depends on how busy your lane is, you could even take objects or use things that are already in the environment. They're actually in the lane when there's no dogs there. I would be avoiding dogs down that lane like the plague at the moment while you're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't go too far away from your house for
make sure you can leg it if you need to. Great. Right, next one. Got another one, haven't we?
We have. Let's go to the one that's from Lynn first.
Good
So,
idea.
because the other one is lengthy, and I can give you or I can quickly give you
A summary.
summary of it. Yeah.
Okay, so Lynn, do you want me to read this one then, and then you can summarize this one?
Yeah.
Lynn's got a rescue miniature poodle who's very strong and reactive to other dogs, and it breaks my heart when I see other dog owners standing around chatting whilst their dogs play and run around together, enjoying life. I can't let mine off lead because I'm not sure what he will do. I can feel very lonely, especially as some people are not very friendly or understanding. Ted is also a serious scavenger, and we're just trying to get on top of a very upset stomach with diarrhea. I just feel a need of some support, really. He's an incredibly lovely dog and settled into our home like a dream. Any advice would be welcome. Oh, Lynn.
So I saw in the comments to the post that Lynn, that you've had your dog's a rescue and he's been with you for 4 months. Is that Ted? Ted's the name. Yeah, Ted's been with you for 4 months, which is really a shortish time, right? For a dog to be with you. So I would not. There is no need to have a broken heart just yet. So first of all, I always want to say that dogs don't need to play with other dogs to be happy.
Absolutely.
Right? They need to feel safe and loved, and they need to be able to bond with someone. That's you. And of course they want play, of course they need play and joyful interaction, but it doesn't have to be with other dogs. It can be absolutely with you, and it has to be for and foremost with you. So don't be sad and don't envy the people that stand around while their dogs play. When I'm out and about with my dogs. Not
Agreed.
to meet other people and chinwag over coffee while the dogs are up to no good over there. In fact, full disclosure, when my dog Emma, the one that I had most of my reactivity challenges with, when she was a puppy, we used to, we were doing agility here with a local group of lovely, lovely people. And the young dogs, Emma's littermates also went there, and they all got on like a house on fire. There was a lot of play between the dogs. It was quite wild at times. So it was a social activity both for the dogs and for the people, because everybody was really happy to have somewhere to go where there were other understanding dog owners and dog people, etc. However, what happened was that, Emma spent a good part of her puppyhood chasing other dogs, chasing birds, chasing balls, chasing things on the beach. Sometimes the whole group of puppies would leave the field where we all were and just run down to the beach and have a whale of a time and everything. And not every dog does that. I do know that, right? But these guys did, and then that became a bit of a normal thing for Emma. And then I spent years, later to find the balance, to counterbalance all that reinforcement that she got as a puppy for running away from me, for not coming when I call, chasing things that move. And some of you know that we even had an accident involving a car. I mean, lots of other things. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Ted. The reason why I'm telling you this is that I think that kind of unregulated social interaction amongst dogs is overrated, right? So the dog parks, the places where people go and meet and then let the dogs off leash and they all go and mind their own business, it's not the best way to serve your dog.
Mm.
do we serve our dogs? Maybe that's not the right choice of words.
I think Hattie agrees that
Second
we absolutely
language,
should
second
do.
language, excuse.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, she's half cat.
yeah, it's true. She's not an idiot. Although I have to say, Barbara, I'd probably go even further. I
Mm.
think that unregulated interaction between dogs, which isn't properly supervised and, controlled, can be downright dangerous.
Yes, ma'am.
And it can cause massive behavioral issues. I mean, I've got a little story from Hats when she hadn't been over. In fact, I probably had only had her a few weeks. Bless her little cotton socks. And
I've never heard that before.
and of
Oh.
course, this is kind of before I'd started truly geeking out into dog behavior. But I was going to a class with locally to me where there was this unrestricted free for all, basically, where the dogs could all go off lead and run around. And there was an occasion with a young German Shepherd who was just being boisterous, cornered Hattie. Hattie screamed like an absolute banshee. And I'm still, I feel like it's taken years to undo the damage that was done by that incident because she was really scared. So, I think sometimes we think, yeah, it looks great and it's what we want, but is it the best thing for our dogs? I mean, I'm not saying your dog shouldn't interact with other dogs. No reason they shouldn't, but I would want it to be a controlled interaction where, the people are actually, concentrating on what's going on and intervening if things look like they're getting a little bit out of control.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
you've got to
I let my
protect
dogs,
their optimism. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I do let my dogs interact with other dogs, but not just my random dogs on a walk. It's dogs that I know and people who I know, right?
Yeah.
And at the moment, there isn't much.
Definitely.
In the moment, we're not going to any agility events at the moment for various reasons, and so there is not much interaction.
Yeah.
We have one dog on the property that they know, and that's about it at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're similar. We're
So
similar.
I wouldn't. So okay, well, look, this is not Lynn. This hasn't answered your question in terms of what to do. But first of all,
Make you
don't.
feel better, really, I
Yeah,
think.
please don't
Mm.
worry too much about it. I think it is fantastic that you're keeping Ted on a leash for now because you don't know what he's going to do. You also want him to feel safe. So number one goal would be to really, really get very, very good at reading his body language. And at the slightest sign of him showing any kind of, "Ooh, I'm not sure about this," to put distance between him and any other dog and just walk past and just wave at the people, right? And avoid anything, any closeness, where you really see hackles coming up or him growling, barking, or anything like that. Because then he's just communicating to you that he's really unhappy and not feeling safe. Right? So just keep it nice and way under threshold. Stay, at a distance from other dogs. Enjoy this time out between the two of you. You're still bonding, you're still building your relationship. This is an ongoing project with all dogs forever, right? Like any relationship. So yeah, so really I wouldn't worry about it too
Just
much.
enjoy that relationship and that interaction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
other
yeah.
thing that I just wanted to point out, which I often do when we talk about rescue dogs, is you hear the 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months rule, that it takes them 3 days to decompress, 3 weeks to know your routine, and 3 months to start feeling at home. But the problem with that rule is that the dogs don't know it. So
Yeah.
it depends on the individual dog. With some dogs, with my dogs and with some other dogs, it can take, 10 times that with
Yeah.
some dogs. And that's okay because we have to go at their pace rather than what we decide.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then with regard to the scavenging stuff, I would, if you haven't already, I know you've been given a ton of good advice, and maybe also some not so good, I don't know. But sorry, that was silly. I don't know where that came from. Lynn, I would hop over to Dog Stat, Susan Garrett, have a look at her It's Your Choice game. She's got a free mini course on It's Your Choice. I think
Good idea.
we're linking it in the festival. If you go to her talk,
Yeah.
it should be there. If not, give us just Google her or write to us and we'll make sure you get it. And that will definitely help you with this. It's not about a quick fix. It's really about the foundation that you need. So anything else, will come once the dog has good understanding of its choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Last.
LJ's put a question in the comments with a quite hilarious autocorrect in it. Should we do that one, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you tell me if I'm doing the right thing for Bodhi's lack of confidence in town? I've started playing Sync games and doing free work with novel items at home. This is the autocorrect. It says we still go for toffees. And then she's put not toffees. I meant to say rides in the car to town. But I don't ask him to get out of the car. I just let him look and sniff out, partially roll down window and reward for disengaging from the sights and sounds that overwhelm him. Sometimes we find a quieter place and take a short sniffy walk. We're doing this because getting out and playing games was too much for him. It's still slow going, but he seems to be more optimistic and less stressed in new environments this way. Will this get to get us where we want to go, or am I just avoiding the issue?
LG, I want to say, knowing what I know, I think you might be avoiding the issue a little bit. I really, from what I've seen here and in the other classroom, short sessions. Take him out, let him out of the car. You're in, you're out. A quick game, back in the car. That's enough. And it's mostly enough for you. I think, and then do that again until that feels really, it can be 2 minutes, it can even be just 1 minute, right? What you want to avoid is, oh, this is going really swell, let's do this other thing. Oh, this is going really swell, let's do this other thing. Which happens to me all the time. So
it's that I wonder what would happen if
well,
which you've got to avoid, because if you say that, the answer is, well, just don't do it.
Yeah. So and I know for myself that
One
if
more
things are
time.
going really well, I'm just enjoying it so much. So then I do, one more time. So
One
just
more.
keep it super short. So when you do this, when you park, you let him take in, and then you just, hop in and out. Because I think, I mean, all the other things are great, but I think that a big thing for Bodhi is what I like to call a behavior vacuum. That sometimes I notice for myself, too many choices are really stressful for me, or it's choice. Sometimes I just want to be told what to do. Now, I'm not saying let's force it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is clear guidance. So let's get out the car, do a thing, get back in the car. And those can be really, again, clear things. So come into reinforcement zone, maybe we do a spin, step forward towards the car, stop in reinforcement zone, get rewarded for that, and back in the car. And once you have that, you can maybe venture a little bit further from the car or towards wherever it is that you would be going in the ideal world, right? Make it more clearer for you where you're going towards, and clearer for Bodhi what it is that he could do to earn the reinforcement. I know you know your dog best. This is my hallucination from watching your videos.
I think
None of the other things are bad things to do.
I was going to say, from reading it out myself, I thought, oh, these are some really, some really good things to do. But of course, for Barbara having additional insight, you do need to move it on at some point, because you kind of feel safe, don't you? You make your world really small, and it gives you that little bit of safety. What I would do, I think, if I was you, to make you feel a little bit more secure within that framework, is before you go out, try and come up with a plan of what you're going to do. And like Barbara said, keep it really, really short. And you can do, if you go out and it feels like, oh my gosh, that body language or whatever, there's a reason, you can cut some things, you know, a little bit short if there's a good reason for it. But try and do you know, you say, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do reinforcement zone, like Barbara said, I might do some spins, I might then move, go back into reinforcement zone, and then go back into the car, and then just stick to that. So you've kind of got that safety of the plan. And I think sometimes if you feel worried and you're kind of reluctant to push it to that next step, having a plan for safety can really help.
Yeah, and your follow-up questions. So as you said, that makes sense. Thanks so much. I'll make it happen. If he doesn't want to leave the car, question, right? Okay, so what I would do is I would start at home, right? In the car, out the car. Think out, make a little list, and you can share it over in recallers, you know, which games maybe to put on your list that you don't have to play them all in the early sessions, but lists of games to use for that, because some will be better for it than others. So all your leash, all your RZ games might be good. Hand targets will definitely be good, you know, just as a and verbal fun might be a good one. So anyway, I would start at home so that you have a bit of a routine. So from crate games to the car. So what you do at crate games, we're doing in the car. And then we add a game. Each time you add another game, or as you progress, you would add another game before it goes back into the car. So you can practice that at home with crate games, then you can practice it at home as car games, and then you can take it to a real quiet location and practice it there. And then you can, and you could maybe do that, you know, before you go and do whatever your errand is, and then you leave him there. You leave him in the car, right? Yeah. Just to take that pressure off, and also so that you don't have to do multiple trips out, which is also challenging. So, you know, time, we all have only so much time and ability, and what is the word that I'm looking for? Resources, whatever it is, you know. Like I want to take my dog 3 times a day to the vet and play games there. You know, I'm glad when I make it once a week, which I haven't for the last few weeks. Yeah, so don't get overwhelmed with all these tips, but something along those lines.
Yeah, make it doable.
Okay, dokes. Okay, so last question. We're almost on time. Last question is it's a long one, so it's in
Can
the
you summarize?
Huh?
Can you summarize?
Yeah, I summarized it. So this is from, oh, I forgot to put the name. With the dog Bear. Hang on. From Ben. So no, I clicked on the wrong thing. All this time I could have read out the whole thing. So with Rotty, with his Rotty called Bear, who is reactive, excitement reactive. Wants to say frustrated greeter who wants to say hello to everyone. And very friendly, but gets frustrated easily. So they've been walking around their quiet place, calmness, disengagement training, and he's doing very well. And he is coming away from his main triggers of buses and dogs. However, recently, they've been encountering new people, a mother, toddler, and baby. And they have moved into the neighborhood, and Bear did react to them. So what happened was this. So he was doing some heel work with Bear at the grassy bit, saw the family coming towards me. Since I've not done much trigger work with small kids, I thought it best to move off around the corner until they had passed. Bear did great at coming away, and I got out the way. Only thing is they followed us. It was a cul-de-sac, so nowhere to go. Bear did great still, and I made it very obvious that I was training, but they came closer. I got Bear's nose into a bush to sniff and distract. Then they stopped to look at Bear from about 3 meters away and stayed there for a few moments before going back the way they came. He did get a bit excited and wouldn't focus, but didn't fully react. And then another incident happened very similarly, and that time he did lunge and pull on the lead. And this family still didn't move off. And this happened twice, and they purposefully stopped in front of them, and he feels they've been taking pictures. See, he's really worried because, you know, what does he say? They took pictures each time. By the time they had been stopped, got their phone out and took a picture, Bear was over his threshold, and being a big Rottie, I'm worried what they might do with the pictures. And he's put a lot of work into Bear, and doesn't really know what to do with this. And I saw that Ali had already replied in the group saying that, giving good advice and maybe talking to the trying to see if you can contact the people, talk to them. And then also I recommended maybe putting a dog in training, don't approach thing on it.
Absolutely. And I would also, I mean, there's a couple of things that I think I would do. I think definitely have the conversation, and I'd approach it in a kind of, yeah, I've noticed you watching Bear. I could really do with you, just helping me out here. Because people always like to think that they're helping rather than being told what to do, if you see what I mean. So if you could just help me out by, moving along, giving him space, he's doing so well and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Now, so that kind of would help to, I know, Barbara, you might have different advice because I'm quite confident having those conversations. And in fact, if somebody didn't move away, I would tell them in the moment. I said, look, I really need you to move away and give us a little bit of space. So I've got no problems with it, but I know that some people find that a bit icky and a bit horrid. In terms of the recording and the photographing your dog, and the chances are that it's perfectly innocent. The chances are that they're thinking, oh, it's a cute dog, isn't he lovely? Maybe the little, is it a little girl that's with the mother? It's a big dog fan and thinks he's amazing. It could be something like that. I would probably address it with them. And I would say, oh, I've seen you taking photos of the dog. He's a handsome lad, isn't he? Blah, 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 blah. Just to kind of dig into that a little bit and find out what's going on, because it might, help put your mind at rest. But the other thing that I would just do is just make sure that, if it was me and I was really concerned, anytime it happened, I would just make a note, the date, the time, and what was going on, just so that you're really clear, the location, and what happened, just so that you've got, you've kind of covered yourself that way by keeping a note. I think it's, I totally understand why you'd be freaked out, particularly when you've got a big dog like a Rottie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you are, if you're in the UK with the banned breeds and all that kind of stuff, feeling like that might explode at any moment, and I totally get that. So I would just be making a little note of exactly what's happened, just to cover your back, that kind of thing. And as Barbara said, I would have a dog in training, or actually again in the UK, if you go to somewhere like myanxiousdog.co.uk, you can get loads of different sleeves and products, which is dogs in yellow. So it's the yellow leads and stuff like that, to say keep your distance. So just making it blindingly clear, I think those sorts of things can be really useful. I don't know if there's the dogs in yellow thing is as well known in other countries. I'm not really sure, but I think it's labeling your dog, even though it might feel uncomfortable to us.
That's a thing, eh? I was thinking, because I'm somebody who finds it sometimes hard to tell people to
that's what I thought
come
you'd
too
have a different
close in a nice way, and then I wait too long, and then it comes out all wrong and icky. So and then I thought maybe saying things like hi there, and please don't come so close, my dog's not used to children. But then again, one doesn't want to consciously create. Some people might be worried about consciously create, even though that's a responsible thing to do, because dogs and small children is never a good mix, no matter how friendly the other dog.
Absolutely.
Never a good mix, because you don't know what a baby or a toddler, make funny movements and things. And I mean, you've talked about this before. So I stay away in any case. I mean, my young I mean, I don't know if you can hear him now. He's saying, well, now you're doing something to me. He's a youngster, so obviously I want to give him experiences. And sometimes there are people where we walk with kids, and it's really tempting because people around here are generally very dog friendly and quite open, to that sort of thing, to bring them close to children. And I never do, because no interaction is way better than a negative interaction, right? So I rather err on the side of caution. So I loved what you said about making notes. That's really empowering. And I think having a phrase, whichever thing that you feel comfortable with to say, to point out to them in a friendly way, either beforehand if you see them, or in the instance, because 3 meters is very close.
Yeah.
And I know that I get sometimes frustrated. Can't they see that I'm trying to get away from them? People with other dogs or whatever, can't they see, that they need to put their dog on a leash? And the short answer is they don't see. People they really don't see it. And I agree with you, Julia, that it's probably completely benign. They probably just admire Bear, want to take home a cool
And
picture.
who wouldn't, no doubt.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if this is helpful, Ben, but let us know. Let us know.
Alki thinks it's helpful.
Okay. Good. I'm great. I'm glad. Okay.
Super.
Okay.
I think we've got through. Yay.
Yeah, that was all the questions we had.
Cool.
Great.
So we've got another one.
Oh,
Next,
another
another
question.
live, yeah, next week on Wednesday, and that's a bit later on. So hopefully it'll be easier for people to come along. So 6 o'clock in the evening in the UK, 1 p.m. East Coast, 10 a.m. West Coast of the other side of the pond. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get to see you then.
Okay, great. See you then, guys.